You set an alarm last night. You checked your phone this morning. You sat in traffic or opened a laptop or stood in line for coffee. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you felt the quiet pressure of a day already filling up before it started. That feeling is familiar. But here is what nobody tells you. The version of you that lived 50,000 years ago had a completely different relationship with time. And when you find out how ancient humans actually spent their days, something strange happens. You start to wonder which version of you is the one living correctly. The question sounds simple. What did ancient humans actually do all day? But the real answer is far stranger than hunting mammoths from sunrise to sunset. The real answer dismantles almost everything modern culture has told you about work, rest, productivity, and purpose. So let us go back, further than you might expect. Picture yourself in the Paleolithic era. Not the dramatic Hollywood version. No thundering herds, no constant heroic struggle. Anthropologist James Woodburn spent years studying the Hadza people of Tanzania, one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer societies on Earth. And what he found was not what evolutionary psychology had predicted. The Hadza, whose lifestyle most closely mirrors that of our Stone Age ancestors, worked, in the sense of actively foraging or hunting, for roughly 3 to 5 hours per day. 3 to 5 hours. That was it. The rest of the day was something else entirely. Your ancestor was not a machine. Your ancestor rested, talked, played, watched the fire, groomed other members of the group the way primates still do. Not for vanity, but as a form of social bonding that released oxytocin and cemented trust. Robin Dunbar, the British anthropologist famous for his work on social brain theory, argues that gossip and idle conversation in hunter-gatherer groups served the same function that physical grooming did for our primate relatives. Talking about other people, sharing stories, laughing, this was not wasted time. This was the technology that built cooperation. Your brain was the product of those long, slow afternoons. So what did the work actually look like? In the morning, and it was almost always the morning, smaller groups split off from camp to forage. Women, in most documented societies, gathered plant foods, tubers, berries, seeds, nuts, and insects, which nutritional anthropologist Richard Wrangham argues formed the caloric backbone of the ancient human diet. Men hunted, but not every day. Hunting large game was an event, not a daily routine. On many days, the hunters came back empty-handed. And this was expected. Nobody was fired. There were no quarterly targets. The group shared what was brought back. The person who caught nothing today ate from the catch of someone else, knowing that tomorrow the equation might reverse. This is one of the most disorienting things about ancient human life when you really sit with it. The economy was not based on individual accumulation. It was based on immediate return. Anthropologists call this an immediate return economy. You get food, you eat it, you share it, and you do not store it for later. There were no barns, no banks, no savings accounts carved into stone. Your ancestor lived in a state of radical present tense abundance, not because resources were infinite, but because hoarding made no evolutionary sense when the group itself was your insurance policy. By midday, most of the active foraging was done. And here is where it gets interesting. The middle of the day in a hunter-gatherer group looked, by modern standards, almost scandalously unproductive. People napped. They told stories. Elders passed knowledge to children not through formal instruction, but through narrative, through myth, through demonstration, through watching and trying and failing without shame. The concept of school did not exist. Neither did the concept of boredom in the modern sense. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who spent decades studying the relationship between attention and happiness, described hunter-gatherer life as naturally structured around what he called flow states, periods of complete absorption in a task that perfectly matched your skill level. Your ancestors were not multitasking, they were fully present, one thing at a time. But it was not all softness and stories. The physical demands of ancient life were relentless in a quiet, cumulative way. Evolutionary biologist Herman Pontzer and his colleagues published a landmark study comparing the energy expenditure of the Hadza to that of sedentary Westerners and found something completely unexpected. The total daily calories burned were almost identical. Not because the Hadza were lazy, but because the human body is a ruthlessly efficient system that compensates. Modern humans sit more, but the body burns the same baseline energy because it has to. The difference is how. The Hadza walked 5 to 12 miles per day as a matter of course. Not as exercise, not as a fitness choice, but as life. There were no chairs. Your body was not designed for the position you are almost certainly in right now. As the afternoon wound down, the group came back together. Fire was the great organizing technology of human social life. Primatologist Richard Wrangham, in his book Catching Fire, argues that cooking over flame fundamentally changed human biology, shrinking our guts, growing our brains, extending the hours of waking social time into the darkness of night. Before fire, the setting sun meant sleep. After fire, humans had something no other creature on Earth had. The evening, a liminal period of warmth and light and story. The campfire was the first television, the first lecture hall, the first therapy session. Researchers studying contemporary hunter-gatherer groups have found that daytime conversation was mostly practical. Food, logistics, coordination. But around the fire at night, the topics shifted. Stories emerged. Spiritual questions surfaced. The ancestors of every religion, every philosophy, every piece of art ever made sat around fires like this, watching sparks rise into the dark, asking what it all meant. Children in these groups did not have childhoods in the modern sense. They had full membership. They played, but their play was the training simulation for adult life. Tracking animals, building shelters, learning fire, practicing the social negotiations that kept a group of 30 to 50 people functioning without law, without police, without courts. Developmental psychologist Peter Gray has argued extensively that this kind of free, mixed-age play is the original educational technology, and that removing it from modern childhood has costs that show up decades later in rising rates of anxiety, depression, and learned helplessness. The ancient child was not protected from the world. The ancient child was given the world and trusted to learn it. And sleep. Ancient humans did not sleep like you sleep. Scientist Jerome Siegel and his team studied the sleep patterns of 3 pre-industrial hunter-gatherer groups, the Hadza, the San of Namibia, and the Tsimane of Bolivia, and found that they slept around 6 to 7 hours per night, not 8, despite the absence of electricity, but they also napped, and they did not have a single consolidated block of sleep. Many researchers believe that the concept of sleeping straight through the night is a modern invention shaped by artificial light and the industrial workday. Your ancestor likely woke in the night, lay quietly, and drifted back into sleep. The sleeplessness you feel at 3 a.m. may not be a disorder. It may be a memory. Here is the thing that should stay with you. Your ancestor did not experience a life of brutal, constant survival. That version of human prehistory is a myth. A story told by people who needed to justify the modern grind by making the alternative seem worse. The anthropological record tells a different story. It tells a story of shorter active days, deeper rest, stronger social bonds, immediate sharing, embodied skill, nights around fire, and children raised by communities rather than individuals. Was it hard? Yes. Was it dangerous? Yes. Did people die young? Often. But the structure of the day, the texture of time, was not the anxious, fragmented, always behind feeling you may know too well. You carry that ancestor inside you. Every time you feel the pull toward conversation over productivity, rest over hustle, presence over performance, that is not laziness. That is something older than civilization pulling at the surface of your skin. The day your ancient relative woke up to was not so different from the day you are living now in the ways that matter most. The need to belong somewhere, to be useful to someone, to feel the ground under your feet and the warmth of a fire, to tell a story in the dark and have someone lean in to listen. Tonight, when you set your alarm again, you will be doing something your ancestor never did, but somewhere between the alarm and the sleep, there may still be a fire, and someone leaning in. And that part has not changed at all.